Hey everybody, I'm back wrapping up with the Meet the Parents trilogy with the final installment of The Little Fockers. Now, before I continue, please do me a huge favor. If you like this video and enjoy my content, follow me in the links in the description below. And if you want to further support the channel, please check out my Patreon. Uh, and continue on. A lot of people reprising their roles in this franchise. It's great to have these people come back. Robert De Niro as Jack Burns, Blythe Danner as Dina, Ben Stiller as Greg Focker, Terry Polo as Pam Focker now. We got Dustin Hoffman and Barbara Streisand as Bernie and Roz Focker. Owen Wilson as Kevin Rowley. And crazy cameos here with John DiMaggio and Jordan Peele as EMTs, Kevin Hart as Nurse Lewis, Nick Kroll as a young doctor, crap. We got crap. What's his name? Dang it. Um, uh, oh, we got Rob Hubel as a sleazy doctor. Thomas McCarthy comes back as Dr. Bob Banks. Harvey Keitel as Randy Weir, a construction worker. So yeah, this is like a crazy amount of cast here. Of course, this is like a beloved franchise, so if you get called on to like be a part of it, why would you not agree? We also got Jessica Alba as Andy Garcia. Yes, they do bring up the joke, and I'm kind of glad they bring up the joke, but they don't hammer it home. So there's a nice little balance of utilizing a joke but not abusing it. And then we got the twins, Henry and Samantha Focker, the daughter and son of Greg and Pam, played by Colin Biolchi and Daisy Tahan. So, 5 years after the events of Meet the Fockers, Greg and Pam are in a small little apartment, which they plan on moving to a bigger house in Chicago. But they're trying to find like a good. They're dealing with trying to figure out like a new school to send their children to, and one of it, and this prestigious school called the Early Human School, which is like a weird name for a school. Even have like a picture on the front that kind of looks like a old cave painting of, not cave painting, but that picture where it has like a monkey evolving into man. It kind of looks like that. But it's a very prestigious school, but also pricey. But then we begin. We see like how Greg and Pam's life is, where they now are married. They start like they have like the family they got going on. So they're in like their own little space and living their own lives. Roz is got her own little sex therapy show. Kind of looks like something like The View or something like that, or not even like The View, but it's like the Sherry Shepherd show or Wendy Williams kind of thing going on, um, where she tells like little anecdotes of her life to compare to what the topic of discussion is, and uh, and of course Bernie is just out in Spain trying to find himself essentially, which Ross want to dub it, menopause, which is always that crazy. Everyone come up with crazy new age lingo to describe something instead of just leaving what we have. It's like it's too much sometimes. It's just every year somebody comes up with some particular new lingo like Riz. That's like a Gen Z type of term where it's like just what was wrong calling it game, spitting game, but now you gotta call it Riz, and it's like whatever. But the twins going to be having a birthday party coming up soon, which is why Greg is, trying to get everything done with the house, building like a little backyard pool area, and the construction workers like, clearly like abusing the goodwill he has with his client, kind of thing. But we turn to Jack, who is furious at the fact that Dr. Bob and Debbie has split up after Debbie finds out that he was having an affair with one of his nurses. So now it's like Jack is just upset as he talks to Dina. It's like, I was too busy putting Greg through the ringer, like allowed Dr. Bob slip under the radar. So now he's kicking himself. And of course, he has like a heart condition. He had to defibrillate himself. So now realizing that, okay, I won't be here forever, so I need somebody to handle the reins of the Burns family. I need someone I can trust to lead this family. So he's calling Greg in order to put him in the position of being like the Godfucker. So because you need like three things, like your family house in order, the financial thing in order, and a good school for your kids, things of that sort. So, but then they make their way to on their way to the Chicago to spend time with the grandchildren. But what I was about to say. Crap, I'm blanking on what I was about to say. I was going over through the three things he needed to get his house in order, kind of thing. But I was about to say, like, okay, you want somebody to lead the family, the Burns family specifically, but Greg is doing his leading his own family, the Focker family. But what happened to your own son? What happened to that? The last time his name was mentioned was in the last film, and he's supposed to be going off to like the army. And what better person to lead the Burns family than somebody who was like Lily was in the army? But don't bring that guy up ever again. Matter of fact, it's kind of strange if we don't see like Debbie come and see her niece and nephew. I get it, she's going through some family stuff, but you think like, I don't know, if there was a uh fourth film, it'll be uh it'll behoove them to bring back the other Burns family members, like the son and the other daughter, to meet their niece and nephew. Because I imagine they at some point would have saw them, but it's like if you want somebody to lead the Burns family, you got a son already. So it's like, why you completely? Do you have little faith in your son to do it, or you think he's like, I don't know, maybe you think he's suffering PTSD or something? I'm not sure. You never fully delve into that. You just completely forget that the kid exists. It's kind of weird because he was like still a part of the story somewhat in the first film. So it's like he just completely just disappeared altogether. So he put all his focus into Greg. So maybe because Greg already has an established wife and children and his own place, maybe that the son doesn't have, maybe he has a girlfriend, but he probably doesn't have like kids of his own yet to be like a patriarch, a true patriarch. But I'm not sure. If there was a fourth film, the cool story would probably be like, okay, like what's going on with the son? Like, like this is, my girlfriend and that I met overseas. This, Arab woman I met while I was touring overseas or something like that. That'd have been cool. But anyway, so they go to visit, and we already set up that the son looks up to Greg a lot, but the daughter's like going through some kind of phase where she doesn't want to talk to the father, and she seemed more she seemed more geared towards the Burn side, and specifically towards Jack, where it's like she into that kind of the mindset that he has. She even like feeds him little information behind the scenes while spying on everybody. So the Burns shows up while Greg is dealing with some stuff at work, meeting with this sales rep for this erectile dysfunction pills called Sustango. And I like Jessica Alba. She's a great actress. But the way I get is some kind of shtick they wanted to lean into for the comedic thing, but it's like, why does he have, I mean, at that time, because I think Jessica Alba should be like near 50 now, at least close to it. So she would have been in her early 40s at the time of this movie coming out in 2010. Why would you have her behave like a 20-something-year-old on spring break, where she's like fist pump, yeah, knuckles? I was like, even back then I thought it was kind of odd. Like, why are you acting like this? It's like, how old are you? Sure, you can be a fun, cool person and young at heart kind of thing, but it's like it's still like a mannerisms and stuff, because it kind of put people off. I guess it kind of placates to the world that Jay Roach kind of set up, where you have somebody like Ross and Bernie not knowing about TMI and just be out with it and expect everybody just be cool with it and think it's just the norm. But she's trying to get like Greg on board because he's the head nurse of the hospital. So she's trying to get him on board and go to this kind of convention in order to promote and really sell this thing for, these medical people. Uh, and of course, Jack is starting to once again get suspicious of Greg's intentions because of what Dr. Bob did. Now he's looking at Greg suspiciously. It's like, is this going to be happening again? Because I didn't pay attention, so now I gotta get my foot back on the gas. Even to the point where it's like, while doing, because Kevin's showing back up, he's heartbroken because he took Greg's advice too far, where he was, he's into this serious relationship with this woman Svetlana, and he wants to propose, but his thought process was to do this grand gesture with, planes with, letters behind it saying like, oh, will you marry me, and dolphins and all this little over the top crap. And Greg suggests like, oh, Greg suggests be low key about it. Don't need to go crazy overboard. So it doesn't go as planned, and I think he did it on purpose because he still got a thing for Pam. He's like, this dude will not let it go. It's very weird, to the point where he literally has a tattoo of Pam's face that he lied to me, like, oh, I got drunk overseas and I had a tattoo order as like a picture of my grandmother, and I must have, in my drunken stupor, must have handed over my picture of Pam by mistake. It's like you lying piece of garbage, and it's like, you're lying, and like, Jack and Dina is just like, don't find it awkward at all. Yeah, I get it. You're friends with him, and this dude managed to stay good terms on all of his exes. But I doubt seriously that you encroach, I think that's the word, on their personal lives like the way you did with Pam. And of course, the person that does the interview for the early morning school, the lady that we see happens to have been one of the exes to Kevin, who using his connections get them interview for his kids in order to be part of this prestigious school. And it looks like a very like high-end school, because you have like kids do this like art class where they actually painting or drawing a picture of this man in his like biker shorts or whatever, and then learning about like a different class learning about different segments of the brain and history, and then there's like climbing rock walls and all this other stuff. And it is like, wow, as that is a high-end school. I mean, like, I don't disagree. This, a kid would benefit from this type of knowledge early on. And of course, like, this is not too long after, like, Jack and Kevin go to look at the house that with Greg and see that, the construction workers are just kind of like sitting on their, they say they're on break, but they sit on their ass, and it's like, oh, we can't, get to it because we gotta lay down this and that. It's like they make up excuses basically, and Jack calls him out on it, And of course, both Kevin and Jack call this guy out on it, saying like, I think you're kind of, like you're railroading him, Greg, because like most of your workers have been on break for X amount of time, but you can't really say that because you don't know if they just get on break or not. So you calling them out on something you don't know fully, but you definitely had the right to call the guy out because one of your workers is elderly and it's like sitting on like a lawn chair taking a nap. It's like you're clearly not fit to work. And of course, Greg decides like, okay, I will drive the sand truck to dump the thing because they can't move it without it being like a union job. But assisting Greg, Kevin, and Jack, of course, not knowing how to work this big rig, when he stops, the stand comes piling on. He stops too abruptly while Jack's trying to, monitor him to avoid like any collision on the street. The sand falls on him, and of course he's kind of bitter and upset, obviously. Like, come on, like, Greg, you wouldn't do that on purpose. But he's already in his feelings and kind of tight about everything. But they, but while Greg one night goes to, I'll work my way back to the interview with the school, but Greg going to this conference to meet up with Andy to promote this like a Satango, and then Jack tries to follow him because he sees like he sneaks in and finds like the bag full of these like erectile dysfunction pills, thinking like he's using it for Pen because he's probably not sexually attracted to her anymore, and that's just like Dr. Bob. And of course, he lost his skills as a CIA agent because he isn't like he's like failing to properly follow Greg under the radar without getting spotted. And of course, he gets spotted very easily. And of course, he can't really follow because Greg, is kind of hip to the idea. And I like Greg in this because this is like proceeding in the arc of this trilogy where he's come to his own. He's not very intimidated by Jack as he once was. And he's his own man, so he's not like trying to hey, Hamden, how many years that hair? Yeah, I've been growing this out since 2020. Yeah, thanks for asking. I like I said, I like Greg as I mentioned in my previous reviews of Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. Greg has his own little arc where he started off kind of timid and nervous, where it's like he's past all that now. And I was like, I got my own family, I got a good job, and I got a wonderful wife. I don't need to impress anybody now. Like, I'm over that hump. So now it's like, see ya, Jack. Bye. Toodaloo. Like, and then as he goes to this conference, and of course he ends up telling this crazy stories about what how his past interactions with Jack in the past. And of course, by the epilogue of this film, you get to see this crazy video that went on YouTube about him telling these crazy stories about how Jack behaved and got like a big laugh of from the crowd. And Andy clearly has like a thing for Greg, but not respecting the fact that he's married. But she, kind of panics when her ex shows up and she's trying to pretend like, oh, Greg's my fiance. so she can avoid trying to deal with him. But because she's kind of crossing certain boundaries and not respecting the guy's relationship. But then while she's off to use the bathroom, Greg runs into Dr. Bob, who's on having to be on the same conference. And Greg doesn't want anything to do with this guy, knowing what happened between him and Deb. And he tries to plead his case where it's like he just, because we only saw things on Greg's end and how like the circus that Jack put him through. We didn't see on Dr. Bob's end of things on how like what kind of crazy thing that he put him through, to the point where he actually like look, I named my own son after Jack because like I was his golden boy, and it's like I wanted to please him, but I just felt like the pressure and had to get off that hamster wheel. Well, I get it, but you cheating on your wife wasn't a good outlet. That wasn't like the way you should have gone about that. And like I said, what we see, what little tidbit we have with Pam and the son, and how like they're so afraid of their disappointing their dad and everything like that, you get like a little bit of like a window how their upbringing was. We never really got much with Deb and how Deb is. I know not all sisters are built the same, but as criticism I give Pam on certain things and how little she tries to stand up for her man, now her husband, God knows how Deb is and how little she probably backs up her man, and where she just caters to she might have just been catering to every little thing or whatever whim her father requests without any pushback, and expect her husband to follow suit. And she probably didn't. I'm making a lot of assumptions here. We don't know, but she probably wasn't doing her part on her end and making sure her man is secure and is fulfilled, and it's like probably witnessing some level of pressure coming from her father and not telling him to back off so her husband could have room to breathe. And because he probably got wound so uptight, where this random nurse probably gave him some level of fulfillment that he was probably missing, that Deb probably wasn't fulfilling on her end, because she's probably catering to whatever her father's woman is, instead of recognizing she has her own family and her own husband with their own needs that she probably did not acknowledge. And so kind of led to him cheating, which isn't right. I'm not excusing it, but there's something there. And like I said, the focus isn't on Deb's family, but I can imagine that she was not given the significant pushback towards her father that she probably should have. And that card probably could have helped immensely. It could have, definitely avoided a potential cheating situation. But then again, still, what he did was still wrong. But now Dr. Bob put in Greg's ear that, Greg wasn't Jack's first choice. Since Dr. Bob was the golden boy, he looked at him like, oh, you're the Bob father. So now Greg feels like sloppy seconds. Because Greg's like, oh, I thought we reached to a point here, some understanding, some level of friendship, but you still treating me, lesser than, or secondhand. I was like, I thought we reached some level of friendship here, but no. Once again, you're putting us all in this weird circle of trust, this weird hamster wheel that we all gotta run at the pace, at the beat of your own drum, without any say so on our side of things. And this reached to a point now uh, uh, where we had this in a school's interview, and we see how the interview going with these twins separately, where the daughter is excelling, and then the boy is kind of like floundering a bit, and as Jack puts it to Greg that since they're twins, I think most of the Burns side of mannerisms kind of like flowed or like flowed into the daughter a lot more, while the Focker side, is like the double dose into the boy, where he's like emulating a lot from Greg's dad, like pull my finger and all this other stuff. Like, Grandpa Bernie taught this to me. So now that they're in like the play area, which Burns points out is kind of like a rec room where like the warden or the guards at a prison can learn a lot from their inmates by how they operate in the rec room. It's similar how this teacher's doing part with these kids right now, monitoring these kids and learning what they can from them. And Henry asks his dad, like, can I climb the rock wall? And Greg's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. And Jack questions Greg, and it's like, are you sure he's able to handle like a feat like that? And Greg is like kind of fed up. It's like, Jack, like, I'm his father, okay? Like, he wants to climb a rock wall, and I say it's okay, it's okay. And he asked me, can he climb the Empire State Building? And I say it's okay, then it's okay. You have no authority here, so back off. And of course, on cue was I wanted to happen, because like, why would you not set this up? It's a perfect joke to set up, and the kid immediately falls down. It's a padding area, so he's okay, but he kind of like sprained his wrist. And I love the cut where he's just like mean mugging his dad. And I was like, that's a perfect timing, a series of hilarious events right there. That always stuck with me. That was hilarious, still hilarious. But it's just like, yeah, it's like, as a father, it's like, I'm not a father, but it's like when I have kids, it's like, yeah, it's like, it's all Jack is trying to impose himself on everybody, but everybody got their own family and their own way of doing things. And it's like, when you have your own kid, as long as you're not abusing them or like neglecting them, you have your own way of parenting. And it's like, if you feel personally that your kid is ready to do a particular task, even if they fail, it's like, it's your prerogative. My kid want to try a rock wall, and I feel like he's old enough to do so, and it's, safe enough. Go ahead. Because I'm still going to be here. That's the thing. As a parent, as long as you're still there to catch them when they fall, it's going to be all right. Because we're human. We're going to slip and fall from time to time. The point is, be there to catch them, or be them to give them a hand up. Because, like, it's like the whole Batman Begins. Why do we fall, Bruce? Because, so we can learn to pick ourselves back up. And, that's the thing with kids. They're going to scrape their knee every time they fall. But as long as you're there to heal their wounds and get them back up on their horse, they will be all the better for it, kind of thing. But then everything starts coming to a head where he doesn't trust Greg, and everybody's kind of ganging up on him because he feels like he's fibbing again. But it's like, y'all been through this rigmarole for 2 movies. How is it that y'all keep going, like, siding with Jack in this kind of scenario, but then a scene later is like, oh, Jack, you're just being like a poo-poo head. And of course they run into Andy, and even though Greg kind of lied, something like, "Oh wow, it's like I thought you said she wasn't attractive," and it's so yeah, I lied about her level of attractiveness. So what? Is that ultimately a big deal in the grand scheme of things? And of course, Pam, once again, I do not care for how her attitude is, and she keeps backpedaling. You know, it's like, you're his wife. You're supposed to have this man's back. So of course, Greg is ticked off. Then he goes to, pass by Dina. It's like, oh, by the way, Dina, your husband had a heart attack. Good luck with that. Because of course, he's trying to keep that a secret from everybody else, given how he was talking this big talk about circle of trust and this whole entire rigmarole, and he kept things from Dina, and she chastised him later about he just downplayed this woman's attractiveness, trying to so Pam won't get jealous about it, the same way you did about that woman overseas, Tutu or whatever her name was, and because Jack's being a huge hypocrite, honestly. So, attempted to go to apologize, Greg, tries to sleep over his unfinished house just to get away from it all for a little bit before the birthday party, which they end up having at area Kevin set up, which once again he overstepping. This dude should not be anywhere near this freaking family, in my opinion. Andy shows up with some Chinese food and a bottle of champagne, trying to hit on him. She gets drunk, and unfortunately, Jack shows up and sees through the window, thinking that he's hooking up with her, but Greg is just rebuffing her the whole entire time. So at the twins' party, where Bernie and Ross show up, and Ross, teaching the daughters your father's doing the best he can. Try to give him some slack, because he loves you very much, and trying to set her straight, because who knows why she was acting like that. I guess it doesn't really matter. Kids are weird sometimes. And then trying to take Bernie's advice about just smother him, Jack with love, trying to offer him a peace offering with some cake, and Jack, thinking he committed infidelity, punches Greg, and Greg reluctantly engages. It's this kind of built up to this. It's this fight essentially. And of course, I didn't know in this, it was Ben Stiller kind of took good care of himself, because he got a little bit of bicep as he's putting up his dukes. You see a little bit of biceps. It's oh wow, I didn't even know. It's he took, Ben Stiller actually took great care of himself. And even though if you look up Ben Stiller right now, he kind of looks like what James Gunn looked like right now, where it's bushy white hair. It's dude, you're not really that old. Why are you you should have at least some salt and pepper at the most, but you just you got scared so much and your hair turned white, kind of thing. This shouldn't be that white. You look, you're trying to look like you're 80 years old, and you're 60 something. Dude, come on. It's you're not that old. And it's kind of weird. And same thing with James Gunn. Dude, you're not that old. And it's why you just turn your hair lily white? And it's come on. It's you should have at least some salt and pepper, but you're just full on embracing the 90s 8 years old age or something. You're not even that old, dude. Anyway, they end up in like a fist fight, but then while Bernie got Greg in like some kind of leg lock and he feeling his pulse as Greg is confessing the fact that, or at least expressing that nothing happened. And of course, knowing how the pulse work, he knows like, oh, he's telling the truth. And I was off base there. But then he ends up getting to some cardiac arrest and Greg steps in, helps him out. And then of course, Jinxie tries to get, Henry's pet lizard in its mouth, but he quickly, scoops up the cat, does a Heimlich to cough up the lizard to rescue the lizard, and, keeps Jack stable all at the same time, which Jack witnesses and realizes, oh my God, because it shows that when the chips are down, Greg got it. So he has nothing to worry about. It was always going to be like, Greg, and he admits that. And of course, there's a whole side thing where, Kevin seeking some guidance from Roz, and he thinks she's hitting on him, but he's misreading that, and of course he leaves when Bernie shows up. It was the whole thing. It was completely unnecessary, in all honesty. This dude needs to just get his own freaking life and stop trying to hit on Pam and leave it be. But I guess that's essentially what the point Roz is trying to get across to him. It's like, dude, gotta let it go. Go back to that teacher at the early human school thing and rekindle some stuff with her. She's clearly not seeing anybody. So the movie ends. It's the Christmas holiday. Everybody passing gifts, and Bernie and Roz give a yarmulke to Jack after they discovered that through a DNA search that Jack in his lineage has a bit of Israelite in him, so he's one of them. Of course, he refused to acknowledge any of that stuff, thinking it's suspect. But then they had another surprise where Roz and Bernie selling their Florida home and moving 2 houses down from Greg and Pam. And of course, Jack is like, oh, if they're doing it, we're definitely doing it. Then it's caused this whole big ruckus. And of course, Greg and Pam's like, no, none of y'all's moving nowhere near us. And that's where the movie ends. It's a fun film. I think if you're watching in the Meet the Parents trilogy, you gotta watch it in order. But personally, I think Meet the Fockers is my personal favorite out of the trilogy. But it's still, each one is like a fun film. Great time, honestly. Like I said, none of the actors have missed a step throughout this entire trilogy. And honestly, I wouldn't be too upset if they make a 4th film, but I think it's not necessary. I think it's a miracle because trilogies, outside of maybe superhero films as of late, doesn't always turn out well depending on who you got directing it and who's writing it. It's like a miracle. It always, it's a miracle that it turns out well. And you got to have certain people similar from how it started still on board to make sure it still maintains the same quality that we expected. But all in all, they still managed to put out a good trilogy here. But let me know in the comments below what you think of the Meet the Parents trilogy. Which one is your favorite? How would you rank it? Because honestly, I rank uh, uh number two and one and three. There's some stuff I like a little bit more than one, but you know, I think like there's more comedy gold in the first one. Anyway, I will see you guys next week because next week is going to be like a food related because it's November month with Thanksgiving. It was all about family and food. So next week is going to be like a food related type of film. So it's kind of fun. I've never seen this movie before, but it caught my interest earlier this year. So I was like, I put it on the list so I can talk about it. But in any case, I will see you guys soon. Take care. Have a pleasant weekend. Peace.